going to press record first. I just forgot about that. So, Dom, I'm not sure if you're there. I know Dom is a mum of 3, maybe even 4. No, 3 children. So possibly at this time of the day, she might be running off doing other things. But Libby, you're here as well. Are you able to share with us any of your thoughts?
Absolutely, Fee. And hi, everyone. It's lovely to be back here on a Friday afternoon. I enjoyed it so much last session. So actually, after hearing you all talk, I just found it so inspiring around women supporting women. And so that really made me reflect on how do I reach out, how do I support people in all different ways. So that was just a really good reminder. And I think a month ago, I was pretty well under the pump with work, and I was thinking I needed to get a little bit more balance in my kind of life to be able to be the best leader that I could be. And so, you know, that was another good reflection. And what I did was really just make some time in the diary where it's just thinking and learning time, and have jumped into a couple of really inspiring sessions. And I'm just seeing Shannon, I'll let her in for you. Yeah, so that was kind of what I did really just on the back of spending some time with you last month. And it makes a difference when you allow yourself a little bit of time to down the tools and just immerse yourself in some either a really good podcast or something where you feel like you're growing a little bit or hearing another perspective. So, yeah, that's me.
Thanks, Liv. Fantastic. Welcome, Shannon. Hi,
Fee. Hi, Liv.
I can't actually see you. Oh, good, Shannon. But I can hear you, so that's a good sign.
What about you?
So I did have a lovely slide, but I'm not going to waste time by me dilly-dallying around with the slide. But I want to welcome Shannon Landers, who is one of our Leisure Network's board members. And Shannon's our special guest today. And very quickly, Shannon, I haven't had a chance to sort of talk about anything that you're going to be talking about. So, right. But that's okay. That's all right, because this group is awesome and they just roll with the punches. You should have, they've come back after last session, so I know they're very resilient. But I just wanted to introduce you, Shannon. Shannon is a lawyer and has been, I think, since 2010. I did a little bit of research. Shannon, is that right? We don't
talk about post-qualification years of experience anymore, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
10 years practicing, yeah.
And has won. I will have to read the awards. I'll have to tell everyone all of the amazing awards that you've won. Best Lawyer of the Year, basically, in about 3 years. Best Team, and heads up the legal team or head of legal at Cotton On. So if we're really nice to us, you might get us maybe a gift. I think we should be giving you the gifts, actually. So, Shannon, I'm not going to talk any further because I know that you're on a tight time frame, and everyone else will pick up from where we left off with our reflections and our talk about goals and strategies after Shannon has finished.
Okay. Are you staying on, Liv, to listen?
I absolutely am, Shannon. I know there's so much I can learn from you on this topic. You're a master.
Okay, well, I'm going to share screen and you get to see my calendar. That's great. So I'm not used to Teams. We use something different at Cotton On. So you just get this up. I don't want you to have death by PowerPoint, but I don't want you to just have to look at me the whole time either. So I'm going to try and meet you in the middle. Can you all see that?
What we can see is your calendar.
Right. Okay, so we're
and just in a little black box.
Okay. What about now?
Oh, it looks like it's changing. It's back to us.
Maybe I need to move it. I've got 2 screens.
Yeah.
Right.
So you might just need to, and that's, you know what, while you're working that out, Shan, why don't I just give a little bit of the explanation of why you're here today?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the reason that we've asked Shannon to come along is that we're going to be talking about our personal brand. And when we're talking about personal brand, I'm not thinking, if you Google personal brand, you get all these American people talking about what they wear to work and how they speak and what their social media profile is like. it's more about what the values are that underpin your personal brand, and how that will help you in your leadership of the way that you make decisions, or the decisions that you make. And I think maybe even Lib might have spoken about this last time when you were in our session, Lib, but it's just that who you are as a person, what you value, and how you're going to use that in becoming the best leader that you can be. And it's something I hadn't even heard of it up until about 2 years ago, but it's something now that I've realised through talking to people, that some people actually consciously think about what their personal brand is. And it was really interesting. Libby suggested we speak to Shannon about this, and Shannon hasn't actually, it's not like Shannon's a guru in this is how to do your personal brand. She's going to talk about her journey. But it was really interesting that when I was asking Shannon to do this gig, I said, and I'm thinking in my head, when you die, what are they going to say about you at your funeral? And then Shannon said, well, what are you going to be most famous for? And I went, that's the way to approach it. So, so Shannon will be able to give you her story of being a young professional lawyer through to still being a young professional lawyer now, but 10 or so years down the track.
Okay, I think I might have figured it out, but let's just see. I want to share screen too. What about now?
Yes.
Excellent. So this is not endorsed in any way by Cotton On, but I'm terrible at this type of thing. So we have great people that we pay in the business to pull all this stuff together. So I did do this, so it's not amazing, but it's been using our template. So it's fun and engaging, and hopefully something you guys can relate to, and not just boring PowerPoints. But thank you for the intro, Fee. I think I'll quickly just give you a high level what I'm going to cover, and then we'll get straight into it. But I am quite happy for you guys to jump in at any time with questions. Just feel free to interrupt me. I'm totally fine with that. I won't lose my train of thought. So Friday afternoon amazingness obviously is what this is. Just going to cover off who am I, what is personal branding, some good and bad examples, and then, as Fee said, what do you want to be famous for, which is really what I talk about when I think of personal branding, and then some just tips to take away, and then open up for questions if you're not prepared to interrupt me. Sorry, I just have to keep switching back to where we are. Okay, so I thought I would start with a bit about who I am, because I think personal branding is all-encompassing, not just about what you are and what you do, but it's about who you are and who makes up you as a person. And I've read some of your work and some of your comments, and picked up some really key, sorry if you can hear my dog barking, the joys of seeing into the lives of people. I've picked up some keywords that, that I've noticed all of you kind of trend through your comments, and they're things like women in leadership, women in male-dominated leadership or male-dominated areas, conflict resolution and communication. So they were four trends, I guess, I pulled out of what you guys sent through. So I'm going to make sure I try at least to kind of have a thread of bringing how I deal with some of that stuff through. So this is an example of terrible slideshow behaviour, but I just wanted you to see a little bit about what makes up me as a person, and a lawyer is a big part of who I am, but it's a bit more about what I am. And I'm a wife, I'm a friend, I'm an auntie. You'll see there's wine enthusiast, yoga tolerator, all those types of things, board member. And all of that stuff that I do and who I am. See how dog mum is bigger than wife. Obviously, there's a bit of a level as to importance in my life. All of this feeds through into my brand and who I am. So I just wanted to cover a bit about that, so you get a bit of a sense of Shannon, the person, before we go into Shannon the lawyer and the personal brand. So I'm going to assume that you guys are dying to know what my journey has been. So I'm going to start by talking me through my professional journey, but I'm going to tie into a bit of my personal journey, and particularly around sport and leadership, so that it ties into what you guys are here for and what you're interested in. So sport and being active was always really important to me. I danced all through primary school, and then got into high school and, coxed at a really high level for rowing. But leadership was always really important for me as well. So I always had like sporting captaincy roles. And they, I guess, when I was more junior, they came quite naturally to me. And upon reflection, my current personal brand probably doesn't mirror the personal brand I had when I was younger, or the leadership style that I have now. I was probably what you would call, I know we don't use bossy for girls, I was probably quite dominant when I was growing up, and I didn't see that dominant could be perceived in different ways. I guess I associated or assumed that was leadership. And I probably did that because most of the leaders in my life were male figures, and that tends to be how males more often lead, a lot through dominance. So I guess that was my junior style of sporting and leadership. And then I went to law school and actually studied law and psychology. So there's probably a bit to the psych degree I have that comes through in all of this. But I worked at a top tier law firm in a very male dominated transactional area. And it was male dominated because you had to work basically 24 hours. So there was no way that you could really raise a child or anything like that. So then I decided to make an active change and move to a slightly smaller firm and Geelong based, but still in transactions. And it was at that time that I was playing netball. And again, probably just through to the way that I ended up becoming the secretary of the netball club that I was at and dealing with that. And I think I probably have a lot of hindsight reflections on how I probably didn't approach that the best way. And I'll circle back on that when I give you my tips on my current personal brand and leadership style. But I think I probably was a bit of a know-it-all in hindsight. I was studying law. I probably thought I knew more about governance and things like that than what I actually did. And I didn't quite acknowledge the fact that life experience is really important in leadership. And so a lot of the older people at the club around me, they knew more about leadership and governance than I did, even though they didn't have a degree to prove it. So that's on one hand really important. But I think on the flip side of that, for some of you guys that are a little bit younger, I am a global head of legal for a global business, and I'm 33. So age is also not the only factor in leadership, because experiences are really important. And so there is a reason for that. My segue into that is that I acknowledge that as a junior lawyer, that experiences were really important to develop. And so I went out and looked for a board position, a volunteer board position, and I ended up taking on a role as the secretary of the Special Olympics. And I learned a lot about that. And as I learned a bit more about governance and about committees, I was then tapped and asked to join Leisure Networks when I was the ripe old age of 25. And I think to this day, Lib, I've been the youngest I was the youngest board member to serve. Till now, we have, I think, a 26-year-old. And it's really interesting to see her now, and that I was in that spot, 9 years ago or whatever. So there was a lot to do with sporting and leadership that led me to the volunteer governance roles that I took on with Special Olympics and Leisure Networks. And then I took a job at Cotton On, and I've progressed in my career through there. Started as just a company lawyer, then group legal manager, and now head of legal. And I have 3 non-legal functions under me as well. But law is a very dominated industry, as is being on a board, particularly in a sporting club. And then I recently joined the board of the Geelong Racing Club, and horse racing is very male-dominated industry as well. So I guess that rounds out my experience in terms of professional, where I got to where I am now. and then some of the board and sporting and leadership positions I've been in. Before I go to the next slide, I might just break before I start talking to you about personal branding, just to see if anyone has any questions about my personal or professional journey. No?
Yeah, I do,
Okay.
Shannon.
Right.
I was just wondering how you actually sort out the volunteer board roles.
Great question. So I'm pretty sure I Googled it.
That was where I would have started as well. But I just wondered if there was, if there's some sort of secret.
There is and there isn't. So what I mean by that is for Special Olympics, I definitely Googled like volunteer board positions, and that one was the one that spoke to me the most. And when I met with the chair, that was the one that resonated with me and also with the Special Olympics for me to do that. With Leisure Networks and with Geelong Racing Club, I was tapped on the shoulder for both of those, particularly because, boards often need a lawyer, so you generally get asked to do things like that. But two things I'd say about that. You kind of, whatever it is that you do or whoever it is that you are, you have to put yourself out there to make sure people know that that's the type of thing that you're interested or you would want to do. So you have to start kind of having those conversations with people and building those relationships in order to get those taps. They don't kind of just come out of nowhere. So there is a bit that you can do to help with that. And the other thing that I would say is, while volunteer experience is really important, I would seriously assess exactly which roles you do and don't take, because, they're unpaid positions, and while you learn a lot, you give a lot as well. So it has to be something that really aligns with your personal values and that you believe in, so that it feels engaging and that you get something out of it.
Yep.
Okay, so what the heck is personal branding? Does anyone want to have a go and talk to me about what they think personal branding is? No? Okay. So I've put a sentence there that really explains it really well. So your personal brand is how you promote yourself, the unique combination of skills, experience, and personality that you want the world to see. Telling your story, how it reflects in your conduct, behaviour, spoken and unspoken words and attitudes. So it's what I've put up the top there is Shannon Landers Proprietary Limited. What are you famous for? So one of the best analogies that's ever been described to me for a personal brand is you're the sole director of your company. So I'm the sole director of Shannon Landers. So what am I trying to sell people, and what are people going to buy from me? Like, what am I famous for? And you could link some analogies to all your favorite brands, and they've all got their taglines about what they're trying to sell, and that's really their marketing. But the brand it's not what you're trying to sell, it's what people buy from you. So I try to sell that I'm a trusted advisor. And I do that in my volunteer roles, I do that in my leadership roles, and I do that in my professional role, and I try to do that in my personal role with my friends and family as well. So Shannon Landers is really trying to sell trusted advice. But in order to market that's what I'm marketing. But in order for people to buy my personal brand, what are they expecting to get from that? So they're really expecting to get consistency, being genuine, articulate. I've got a slide right at the end that talks about all my key deliverables on my personal brand. But so calm, consistent, articulate, they're the kind of words that I think about that I would love everyone to describe me if you asked anyone. So I guess that's a good segue as well into the what do you want to be famous for. So if you were at a party and someone wanted to meet you and they tapped someone that you knew on the shoulder and said, oh, tell me about that person, what are the keywords that really you would want people to explain you as? That's really your personal brand. So to give you some examples without just having to talk about me, I've got a bit of a legends page and I've tried to tie it into sporting figures, and some of you are going to laugh about when you see who I've picked. But these are the people that I believe have really nailed their personal brand in the sporting industry. So I might be a bit biased here, but I think Joel Selwood has an epic personal brand. And the reason that I think that Joel Selwood has an epic personal brand is because 99% of the time, you know what you're going to get from him. You're going to get brave. You're going to get loyal. You're going to get nice guy. They're the kind of words that always come up to describe Joel Selwood. Now, you might think of some examples where he got a bit of white line fever and maybe didn't act in accordance with his personal brand. Maybe he pushed someone and they got suspended. He's probably done that twice in his career. But what I will tell you is that if someone has an epic personal brand and they act consistently within their personal brand and what they're famous for 99% of the time, then those 1%ers where they act outside their personal brand, because let's face it, everyone's human, people aren't going to remember them for that because they've got such a strong brand. They're going to allow that mistake and they're still going to think that he's a brave, loyal, nice guy. In case you're not into football or you think I'm being biased about Geelong, which I absolutely am, I've given you some other sporting figures that I also think have great, really consistent behaviours. Michael Jordan, he is a personal brand. Michael Jordan is a personal brand. I don't think that's just disputable. And another example would be he did have some kind of off the court issues, but that didn't really impact what people thought of because he was so consistent in how he held himself on and off the court. Same with Roger Federer, same with Michael Phelps. So they're really some examples of sporting figures that have great personal brands because of their consistent and regular patterns of behaviour. Not so much. So there's some great examples of sporting figures that sometimes we want to cheer for them, but they just make it really hard for us. So I'm not picking on tennis, but Bernard Tomic and Nick Kyrgios make it challenging for us to love them because they have challenging personal branding. Then there's other guys like, I just noticed I didn't pick any females in any of this. Anywho, that was not deliberate.
I'm noticing that too, Shannon. I can't believe it.
I did this at like 10 o'clock last night. So I missed the female part of it, but I was really thinking about branding, not about sex.
No, it's good. It's good.
Says something though, doesn't
people
it?
we don't like are all
it does say something.
Sorry, Jessie.
So Tiger Woods and Lance Armstrong are good examples of how if you do something that's so outside of your personal brand, or you consistently and regularly do something outside of your personal brand, it basically obliterates what you stand for. So you would have said that, and nothing to take away from the fact that they're amazing athletes, but it impacts their leadership because they're not really the kind of role models that you want to follow. Because one was a consistent and regular adulterer and one was a consistent and regular drug cheat. So it kind of brings into disrepute all the previous goodwill they put into their personal brand. So they're just some examples I thought would help illustrate personal branding, because you don't know me, but I know a lot about these guys. So what do you want to be famous for, which is what I was talking about before. The words that kept coming back to me that I would want people to describe me as both personally and professionally are the words on the screen. So calm, genuine or authentic, measured, solutions-focused, articulate, strategic. Now, I haven't always been all of those things. At times, I probably haven't been any of those things. And I think personal branding is a little bit of a cake recipe that's made up of things that you naturally are or you naturally default to and things that you have to work on. Your personal brand doesn't just happen naturally, but it should be genuine and authentic. You shouldn't try and be someone that you're not, but there might be certain things that you want to be known for that you really do have to work on. And for me, that was calm. I haven't always been calm. I was probably quite emotional in my decision making and my leadership growing up. And really only in the last, I've always been solutions focused and strategic, but I guess whether people bought into my strategy or my solutions was impacted because of how I delivered it, because I wasn't calm when I was trying to get them to the solution or get them to the strategy. So what I found was when I picked one key characteristic to work on, which was calmness, all the other stuff fell into place, and people started to refer to me as strategic and started to refer to me as solutions focused and measured, because I focused on being calm in my delivery, which had a lot of cut through with all the people that I was dealing with in all the different levels. So one thing I would say is you don't need to make it hard for yourself and try and be all things to all people. If you just focus on one universal quality that is genuine for you, then a lot of the other stuff around your brand will kind of fall into place. So that kind of leads me on to my tips. And the tips actually fell into a lot of the questions that you guys had, or the key words that you were referring to. So consistency is key, as I've kind of explained through this, that, you know, your personal brand is what people regularly and systematically refer to you as. So it's your most regular pattern of behaviours. And one thing that I've realised over all my different career and leadership kind of path is that there's only one thing in this world you can control, and that's your behaviour. Everything else is outside of your control. So how you respond to situations and how you deal with situations is what you're going to be known for, and that's going to lead into your personal brand. So with one of the promotions that I got at work, that's when I decided, despite the fact that inside I felt like there was a nuclear war going on, outside I at least focused on appearing to be calm, and so consistently that impacted my personal branding across in and outside the business with all my internal and external stakeholders. The other thing that's really important, which you guys have been asking about and talking about, is communication. Communication is so important in leadership, and it's so important in your personal brand, because the way in which you communicate with people is how they remember you, because it's how it makes them feel. And a good leader should be able to alter their communication style depending on the situation or who they're dealing with. Now, that's obviously a skill that you have to work on. Some people, it comes more naturally than others. But one thing that I would say is always deliver on your outcomes. So to be a trusted advisor, like what I want to be, I have to really clearly to communicate to people what the outcome is that I'm going to get them and when I'm going to get it by. And if I can't deliver on those outcomes, I continually communicate with my stakeholders as to why I can't or when I can. So a lot of the disputes or the frustrations or the things that happen in life are through lack of communication. So consistency and communication are key, and they'll fall back in with your personal branding and your leadership style. The next one I put, which is one of my key things in life, is relationships. If you can build really good relationships, then your communication is easier. You have far better cut through and influence. So when you have good influence, your leadership is stronger. And then you have better personal brand because you have better relationships. And then it just, all the disputes that you might be facing or the governance issues or the things that you're dealing with in your roles, if you've got good relationships, you'll find that things diffuse or dissolve a little bit easier. And I can say that through life experience, but also through being a lawyer. And, you know, when people send aggressive things in writing, it's really easy to hide behind paper. And then if you pick up the phone and you talk to someone, you can often diffuse a dispute through communication. But if you build a relationship with that person, you can have a better, more frank and more vulnerable discussion, because a massive part of leadership is vulnerability. You shouldn't have to know everything about everything, and you should be comfortable to say that you don't know everything about everything, and then that helps break down walls and build relationships, and then you should be able to communicate better and resolve disputes more easily. So I think I'm probably out of time with my presentation. So now leading on to questions.
I think you're spot on, actually,
Right.
Shannon. I think we started a little bit late, and we've got at least 5 minutes. If anyone's got some questions for Shannon.
I can stop sharing that. No?
Well, I've got a question. Just while others are thinking of questions. Shannon, that was an amazing presentation, and I know your contribution at our board, and so I completely rate you, but I've also seen you grow as well from 7 years ago when we first started working together. And so I want to know, like, all of that learning that you just shared with us, that's not out of a textbook, you know, that's kind of your journey. When did you take a moment to sit and reflect and put that together? Was it for today, or is this something you kind of have been doing as part of your ongoing journey and growth? And did you have people help you to reflect on those sorts of things?
Yeah, so personal development is something that's really uncomfortable until it's not. So it's almost like, you know, in your job, I don't know if you've ever had like a KPI review or performance review or something like that, but when you work in a law firm, you have a performance review and it's scheduled well in advance, so you've got plenty of time to, you know, freak out about it. And then you sit in a room with a whole heap of really big old scary lawyers who just tell you that you're not making enough money for the firm, no matter what that you're doing. So that was my experience with, I guess, feedback, and I didn't deal with it very well. I didn't deal with it very well because I took it really personally, because it is. And I think I probably thought I knew everything. I probably didn't think that there was anything that anybody could teach me. And it's not, I've never been a brat or arrogant or anything like that. It was just that I felt like I was smart enough to figure it out myself. So this sounds really horrible, and I swear to God, I get to a point. But yeah, I guess when I was in my 20s, personal development wasn't really something that I focused on. It was more technical development around my role, and the style in which feedback was given was quite horrific and traumatizing, that I wasn't very open to it. Then I moved to an environment where it was the complete opposite, and everyone just told you how amazing you were all the time, that it was like a bit weird. So like really strange for me to start getting emails like, hey babe, what's the legal advice on this? You're doing amazing, kiss kiss, like, and try and rationalize that with really stern kind of like your shit advice, basically. Like, it's too, so I guess it took me quite a few years to really resonate and take all that on. And then I started to really learn about emotional intelligence, or EQ, and realized that I was an incredibly self-aware person. I just ignored it. So like I knew if someone was annoying me with a question that I didn't think was relevant, I knew my advice back to them was quite short or blunt, but I didn't stop myself. And I started to just become acutely aware of that kind of behavior in my 30s. And then when I got promoted to my last role about 18 months ago, it was a massive role, and I thought, shit, I can't please everyone here, so I need to go and actively seek some feedback on my style and start to try and find at least a more universally pleasing way to deal with all these stakeholders I now have to deal with. So I started to put in phone calls and meetings with all my global stakeholders, and I actively sought out and asked for feedback, and it was pretty confronting. And I actually received a lot of feedback I didn't even ask for, and it started to get quite heavy. So on one hand, while I would suggest that you seek feedback, the other hand, I would suggest that you would kind of delve into your emotional intelligence and self-awareness and make sure that you're in a place where you're willing to accept and hear that feedback and make change to take it on board. And what I will say is everyone gives you lots of feedback, but the CFO that I report to was like, oh, you know, some people are really emotional up here and some people aren't emotional down here. You're probably in the middle. I just need you to be the barometer of calm in every room when everyone's losing their stuff. I just need you to be calm. And so out of all the feedback that I got, I focused on calmness and everything else fell into place. So now my personal brand is that I'm calm in a crisis, and the worse the crisis is, the more calm I become.
Wow, that's
perfect
amazing.
timing for now.
Yeah. Yes, coronavirus, I was definitely the barometer of calm. Everyone was losing it, and I was chill. So that kind of ties back into everything I said before, is that it's good to focus on one thing that you want to be known for or that you want to be famous for. And you definitely do need to seek feedback, and you definitely need to be open to that feedback and to making change. And not everyone's feedback is relevant or worth taking on, by the way, but you will figure that out. And then there'll be a turning point of, you know, all your life before you could accept feedback, and then your life after. And then you know, once you start comfortably taking it on, it doesn't hurt anymore, and you see it as a growth opportunity, and you actually actively seek it out and look forward to it.
That's excellent.
Fantastic.
I've just got a quick question, sorry. How about how have you handled resistance to your leadership style, even though like you may be changing it up for different people, like your leadership style, but how do you deal with I guess resistance from people? And this is probably more so from a male, like a male resistance.
Yeah, it's a tough question for a Friday afternoon. I think the one tip I can give you is that you've got to continue to be authentic and genuine. And while I say you need to flex for different people, you should absolutely not be changing who you are to suit someone and their style. And to be completely frank, you know, we're humans, and not everyone in the whole world's always going to like you. But you know, you should at least be able to get people to respect you. So there's certainly people in the business, males and females in particular, that I can think of, that I kind of have, we rub up against each other the wrong way, but we can respect each other enough to get to a result. And what I would say is that, as hard as it sounds, if you're having like a rub against someone, you have to address it head on. So I wouldn't do that in writing. I would do that verbally, and I would do that in a more casual setting. So I wouldn't like go into a meeting room or something like that where it's very formal. I would, you know, we've got a cafe at Cotton On when we're actually allowed to be there. I would say, oh, can we grab a coffee? And I'd be like, look, I feel like we're just butting up heads against each other, and I just want to know, like, how can we get to a result? And I think I would just unfortunately have to swallow my pride and just be really vulnerable and say, this isn't working, can we just like do a bit of a debrief? And I would face it head on, which is really scary, but you would be amazed the impact that has once you've done it. And I think if it's a male, you just stroke their ego and tell them you need their help. It tends to work. So
no offense, Jessie.
No, I don't care if it's a
It's true though. No,
it's 10% of the time. So.
It does. Absolutely. Implant some ideas in their head too.
Yeah, you just quickly swallow the bitter, and you call me like, hey, I just really need your help with something, and then you kind of get what you need.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah, play the man.
Fantastic, Shannon. That was wonderful, as I knew that it would be. So yeah, thank you so much. Even the chat that we had in planning it, Shannon just on the spot came out with these gems, and I just thought, oh, I just want to bottle that and give it to all of you. And yeah, you've done that. So thank you so much. Much appreciated. And I think, Shannon, you'd be open if people had questions that they go to bed tonight and think, oh, I should have asked her that. That you'd be happy for me. I can pass on any questions and get back to you via email.
Yeah, totally fine. I think one of the really important tools you need to have in your arsenal when you're trying to be an effective leader is to have mentors, and mentors both inside and outside of your business or your sporting club, and inside and outside of your profession, I think are really, really important. So would be happy to answer anything.
Brilliant. Jump on that. First in, best dressed, everyone. You heard it. Thank you, Shannon. I know that you're more than welcome to stay, but I know that you are a very, very busy person. So if you are going, thank you very much. And maybe you might even come back on the last session of this leadership program. I'm thinking it'll be a little celebration and acknowledgement of everyone's efforts. So you might be able to come back and present some awards or something.
Sounds good.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me.
Thanks, Shan.
Thank you, Shannon.
Terrific. Okay, everyone. Oh, that was wonderful. Now, I'm mindful that Sally and Dom are here with us, but I don't know whether it's only in spirit because they're coming up as a different. So, Sally, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, great. Fantastic. Well, Sally, can you just chat to us about, I know that you weren't here for the last session, so don't worry too much about reflection, but just maybe about your goal and strategies?
Yeah, certainly. So I think one of the goals that I'd like to work on is just, I guess, creating motivation and inspiration within my team. So I think it's quite easy to get caught up in the day-to-day operations when you're, in a busy environment like that. So I just, by leading by example and being energetic and passionate and, encouraging those new ideas and new inspiration to come through in our crazy, hectic world is something that I would like to work on.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sally. And Dom, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Oh, hello. Yes, we can hear you. How are you going?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. I turned my camera off because I just had so many small people bothering me and you didn't need to watch them. I haven't really done much of last week, but I guess my goal in doing this, I'm involved up at my club through coaching the under 12 girls, and I guess I'm just wanting to have a positive impact, but I guess grow as a more sort of confident and empowering leader. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Brilliant.
Thanks, Dom. That's great. And thanks for sharing and welcome. I know that we're a last minute, so that's okay. Wonderful. Have I left anyone out? Need to sometimes I can be a little bit no, I reckon that we're all right. All right, so we're going to plow on for the tricky part. I'm going to share my screen again. Hopefully it'll be the right one this time. No. I'm looking over here. I've got my other computer here to see what you can see. Yep. Okay. So that was just me trying to be funny, really. And it was going to be the introduction into to Shannon's presentation, which I thought was fantastic. And I sort of looked at this and it resonated with me thinking, what do you mean? I don't need a personal brand. I can just flop along in life and it'll all be fine. But listening to Shannon speak, if you've got an opportunity now for tomorrow to be the start of you more consciously thinking about how you present and who you are and how you articulate that, I've sort of figured you've certainly got nothing to lose and a lot to gain. So I'm gathering you had fits of laughter seeing that, and we'll flick on to my attempt at, let's do some IT, because I don't mind being a bit of a geek. In your phones or your other device, can you just type in that website? And it should just come up asking you for that code that you've got there. I'm going to just have to stop sharing and share again. Sorry, I've just got to change this. Go stop sharing and share. Hopefully. Yes. Beautiful. All right. Oh, have you already done it? Or is it?
I haven't.
Okay.
No, I haven't.
Okay. Someone might have. I bet Jesse Drever has. He's very, very fast. Fast draw. So the first one, and it is cumulative. So it's more for you just to start thinking about these statements. So ranking or rating yourself on how in relation to these statements. So for instance, am I comfortable making important decisions with plenty of lead time? So if you can just all, put in your responses, and that ranking is going to be an average of what you are saying. So you don't have to worry about being a team player here. You just put in whatever's your response. And then if you can all maybe even just let me know when you've done it, or or probably alternatively, if you're having any trouble with it, let me know.
Yeah, I've done it.
Cool. So you can see up there that all done. Beautiful. So you can just see the different responses there, and as a group, the highest is there that you always do consult your committee or close colleagues. So I say well done to you, because I reckon that's one of the hardest things to do when you're on a committee and you're leading, that sometimes it's just so much easier to make the decision and tell everyone about it afterwards. But it's so important, if you want committee members to continue, that you ask them first and that they be involved in that conversation. And now what we're going to do is, all going well, we're going to do the same, but the next one is going to be what you perceive other people to think of you. We're going to see if there's much difference here.
Oops, what have I just done?
It should have flick over to a new slide.
Oh, mine went back. I must have did something wrong.
Mine went back as well.
Did it?
Mine went back.
They all went back?
Yep.
All right. So what I'll do is I'm going to go.
Mine went to the right one.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, because it says rank how you think others perceive you.
Yes.
So,
And that's what mine says too. Yeah, mine's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
mine
Okay.
was the right one.
Yeah.
Right.
Apologies.
I won't fiddle around with it, because I might stuff the whole
So
thing
does
up. But
mine.
this is really good. So it's really good with 2 10s at the top there. I don't know if everyone's had a chance yet to fill it out. A bit of movement. So in general there, it looks like you actually perceive that other people see you stronger in your leadership traits than what you see yourself. Would that be correct?
Yeah, always the way, isn't it?
Yeah.
And do you think part of that is because people just say, oh, well, you're the president, so you'll just know because you're the president.
Yeah.
But, yesterday before the AGM, when you're not the president, hey, what happened overnight? I don't necessarily know.
Tough on each other, on ourselves in general as people.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's something just for us to be conscious of, and we'll come back to this. This was more actually a way of getting us to think about, to me, they're the things that we deal with in being a leader of a club or an organisation or a household or whatever it might be, that they're all quite crucial elements to being effective. And as we know, it can be different depending on the person that we're leading. So I'm just going to pop out of that. Bear with me. Now we're going to do some work. Now, I don't want to put you off, so don't all run away, please. But I'm now just going to get you to just put your thinking cap on. I'm thinking a pen and paper is going to be the easiest here. But if you are wanting to, I'm just going to go back to the slideshow. So what I'm going to do is, so that I don't get all tangled like we did last time, I'm going to show you what we're looking at. So some of you will think, oh, this is easy, and some will freak out and just get pen and paper out. So that's our backup. But there's a program, it's called Miro, it's free, it's safe, all the rest. And what I'm wanting is for each of you to start your own, I'm going to call it like a scrapbook or a poster. And today we've got 3 activities up here that I'll show you, and then we'll get you to either do or take away with you. But I'd love it if it could be an ongoing poster, and it's sort of like it's going to end up a big picture of your leadership program with Leisure Networks. And I'll just go and I'll just say, you know, like I hear all the time from people that, you know, establishing clear goals and strategies is really challenging, and I totally agree. So this is going to be a bit of an attempt that we do it step by step and we do it together. The end result, the very, very end result of today's activities is that I would love it if you could write your own LinkedIn profiles. For those of you who don't know what LinkedIn is, it's like a professional Facebook. So, and it's really hard to write your own profile, but LinkedIn is a really good opportunity for you just to be out there and be able to articulate to people what your personal brand is. So the first thing we're going to do is looking at this is, what do you really value? What are you good at? What do you enjoy? What motivates you? And eventually when I show you this new program, you'll be able to just play with it and throw in ideas as they come to you. You can just throw in more sticky notes, however way you please. And then we're going to look at doing our own coat of arms. I'll just take you off share for a second. Just because I need to see your faces, because if I'm seeing lots of blank faces, I'm going to say, right, I need to change tack. Does anyone have a coat of arms, like a family? Have you ever gone to England and gone, oh, that's the Bennett coat of arms, or the and I've got I think I've got a bit of a photo. Sorry, bear with me. I'll go back into the PowerPoint. Maybe it's this one. Oh, I was already in it. So something like that thing. Can you see that?
Yeah.
It's probably not a very accurate one. I chose this one because see how there's 4 quadrants in that one? That's what we're going to pretend that we're developing our own family shield, our own, and it's what represents your background information, your values, your philosophies of life and leadership. So the activity is going to be that you look at these things here. So the 2 leadership skills that you've already got, 2 values that influence how you lead, what part of leadership you like the best, and then a recent success or accomplishment. If you write it down on paper now, but in a moment, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do that. I'll show you where I want you to put it, but I'm not expecting you to do it now. If I can get you to do it for homework, that would be fantastic. But I'll leave you with that activity just now for 5 minutes. And if you want to jump in and talk to each other and stuff, please do.
By leadership skills, are we talking things like good communicator and?
Yep. Yeah, Kim. Anything that you think is a skill or a talent that you've got in leadership that you see that really holds you in good stead.
Thanks. I like the way I say about communication, and yet that's the thing that I'm worried about is communicating with tricky situations.
Yeah, but that's often the way. It's something that we, the more you know about something, the more that you realise how important it is as well. So I think that for communication, it has lots of different aspects to it as well. But I'm with you. The conflict resolution or conflict management part of communication is, I reckon, the most difficult, as Shannon has said as well. So yeah.
And generally, by communicating well, it doesn't tend to build, but sometimes it's already there before you take over a position. That's what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, that's like I was saying before about your perception of yourself and the difference how others perceive you just because you've got a title. So
yes, yeah.
as soon as you've got a title, you're really up there to be ripped down. And people forget, and they'll say things like, "Oh well, she shouldn't have taken on the job if she couldn't do it." Well, she probably took on the job because no one else wanted to do it. But yeah, I think as soon as you have a title like that, there's a level of expectation there. All right, so I'm going to now. This is one I whipped up earlier, and I laughed at myself. It was after speaking to Shannon, and I thought, I am so not calm in crisis. I am the world's worst, and the worse the crisis, the worse I am. So I would like that to be one of my leadership skills, but it's not at the moment. But I do have a whole lot of, I don't know if you can see this, I do have a lot of confidence because I've had a lot of experience, but my confidence is very situational. So I walk into a netball club environment and I'm super confident, but I can walk into a work environment and just think I should not be here. I could feel completely out of place and, can't put two words together. So, it can be that you have that skill, but you don't always feel that you might need another skill, as in confidence, to be able to communicate, for instance, in different environments. My other one is being relevant, and I love people. I think two values that I'm really strong on are passion and just kindness. And then recently, I'm almost finished my graduate certificate in leadership, which I've loved. And my other accomplishment is getting this program up and running into the second session, which I'm pleased about. Does anyone, I'm just going to take you off the share now. Would anyone else like to share anything that they've written there for their coat of arms, or their leadership shield, I'm calling it, leadership shield?
Yep, I can.
Yeah, thanks, Kim.
Sarah or Kim, do you want to go?
Oh, sorry, Sarah. Sorry, I thought that was Kim.
Not
Sorry,
me.
Sarah.
Oh, go, Sarah.
You. No, that's all right.
Talking.
So the leadership skills I put down were open-mindedness and also relationships. I feel as though I'm fairly good at building relationships with people. Leadership values, reliable and committed. Part of the leadership role I like definitely the people, so definitely meeting new people and also personal growth, because you're always learning off different people, and I love that. And I guess the recent success is probably taking on the chairperson role of a club, and also I've been able to join our 2 football departments together. So that's
brilliant work. Yeah.
Where am I? Yeah.
Fantastic. Does anyone else want to share anything? I'm just going to. Jessie, did you have anything? You've always got something.
Yeah, I'm happy to share.
Thank you.
I think the 2 leadership skills that I've probably hang my hat on are being measured. So similar to what Shannon said, in situations that can be emotional or there can be some antagonism, I suppose. I pride myself on being able to not get too high in the situation or too low as well. So staying at that nice even keel, and then being methodical as well. So in situations where there might be a lot of different facts and considerations coming into play, I think I've got a good ability to sift through and figure out what's important, and putting forward, whether it's a club or whether it's an organisation I'm working for, putting forward what their values and what their end goal is as, I guess, the priority of things. And then in terms of what parts I guess I like about my role the best, I like being able to make a difference. I think if you're passionate about what you're doing, you're going to do a good job of it. I think everyone can feel that if you're not really passionate about the end goal, it's hard to really dedicate yourself fully to it. And then working with others, working as part of a team, I think it's always a really good part. Whilst you might be in a leadership position yourself, I think it's always good to be part of a group that are working together for a common goal rather than kind of you being the one person trying to drive it yourself.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that's awesome, Jessie. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share? I'm interested in the what part of leadership do people like the best, because it can be a really daunting role. And I know for me, I really enjoy being relevant, and possibly I don't mind a bit of attention sometimes. So I really like, being in a small, but not small country town compared to where some of you are from. But I love that I can walk down the street and have people come and chat to you and, hey, what's going on, over there with our new sponsor, or and just having something to talk about that's outside my personal life. Does anyone else have anything that they can think that they really enjoy about being a leader?
I do.
Yeah, cool. Thanks,
Yeah.
Ryan.
I in the leadership roles that I've been in, I just love having a tribe, like building that relationship with your committee members or whoever they may be, just having that. And you seem to just become a pretty good, tight-knit little family. Love it.
Yeah.
But the more, I just love learning off other people. So someone has always got something amazing to contribute. And I think that for me is huge, like learning your personal growth within your leadership role every time. You just,
fantastic.
if you know,
and if you've got that sort of attitude, then you'll just soak it in, and you'll thrive because you're actually open to learning and becoming a better leader. Right. Yeah. Very good. Does anyone else want to? I'm just going to flick to the next slide, which is really. So I did skip one part of this, which I shouldn't have, but that's okay because we're still on. We've got a bit of time. So with the Miro board or the poster page, I would love it if you could look at your own, a bit of a mind map as well. And if you'll bear with me, oops, sorry. Yeah. Now I don't know how big that is on your screens. So what I'm going to
tiny.
It's very tiny, yes, sure. All right. So what I'm going to do is unshare you again, and I'm going to show you what it's going to look like when you all create your own. And it's going to be trying to be too fancy. It really is easy to use, because if I can use it, anyone can. But where we want to get to today, and I did miss this part here, I'll just show you, is what do you really value. But I think you can do this yourself, what you're good at, what you enjoy and what motivates you. But the one that I'm really keen on I'm just trying to get it as big as I can. And I, again, had a go at pre-populating this because I sort of figure I can't ask you to do anything that I haven't done myself, is that thinking about, well, what are my goals? So this is what I would love for you all to do, is just to fill out a mind map in your downtime after this session. And the types of things are, so I'd actually, before this session, had talked about this being one of my goals. And I'm just going to go through goals and strategies because I know that I did have a conversation with someone who said they don't get it. And I'm not necessarily that hot on this stuff either, except that I think this is quite clear. We're talking about ourselves. So there's no right or wrong. It's just, what is a goal of mine? What do I know that I need to do? Well, I know that I need to develop more courage to tackle difficult conversations. And then the strategy will be, how am I going to do that? So practice the difficult conversations with people close to me to start with. Sometimes that's not that difficult either. And so we might actually do some role plays in doing this. If it'd be different if we weren't online, and face-to-face be easier, but I'll try and work out a way that we can do this. I know that when I'm presenting on gender that I need more evidence. So when you've got that resistance, it's really good if you've got knowledge and fact for some people to be able to convince them. And learn some techniques for hard conversations. And one technique that I heard this week was to ask more questions. So rather than try and answer the questions that are being presented to you, just keep asking, well, why do you want to know that? Why are you asking that? And what do you want to achieve from that? So, so really I just want it to be, if you can have 10 goals if you want, you can have one. But if you can have a go at this, again, as I said, afterwards, then, just have a bit of a play with it. And I would love for then you to keep this and save it, and then we'll work on this as we go through the next 4 sessions of the leadership program. Does anyone have any concerns or any queries about using that program, or you're okay with doing that? Yeah?
Right. I've already half done it.
Oh, I knew it.
Oh. I'm looking at it going, what is this anyway? Having a sticking.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. I love it.
A little bit fascinating. I was thinking we would do it as a shared, Jessie and I were on yesterday, and you can all be collaborators on it, and we could all have our own strategy and have input, which would be really cool. But then I thought, hang on, what do I actually want for you here? And I want you to have your own picture of your own leadership journey. So I think that this will be better, but who knows? 3 weeks is a long time.
It's great that you can set it up as a team thing. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Do that with my team.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking it'd be really good if you wanted to go this way, that then I can have a look. Oh, there's a typo there. If you want to have a look, have me have a look at it just to put my comments in, or each other. Yeah, we can all collaborate on each other's.
Really good.
Yeah, which would be pretty cool. All right, so I'm just going to go back to. Okay.
And I'm sure you can have like heaps of teams and just you and all that stuff going on anyway. So.
Yeah, I've seen one populated that was way more advanced, and you can basically do anything. Yeah, it's pretty
great.
Yeah. Oh, good.
I like it. Oh yeah, I'm just like, it's giving me good ideas for my little team I've got underneath me at the moment in my business. So I'm like, oh.
And that's what I would love as well, is that if you can use this in any way, shape or form of any of the stuff that we present, then that's what it's all about, that we're learning soft skills and hard skills. So I'm just going to move on to the next one. The other thing that I wanted to chat about was, do you want to have, and you don't have to answer it straight up here, but would you like to have some social media? Do you want to have like closed groups where you can talk to each other, or at least have a group that you get to know each other and what your experiences are. Is that something
I
maybe?
reckon that's a great idea.
Yeah,
And
I
then
agree.
and then we kept, keep us accountable through the month as
Yeah,
well, like
sure.
making sure we stay on track and
Yep.
think about it. Yeah.
Terrific.
idea.
All right then. And so the next question there then, and I'm happy for you to jot your ideas in the chat on the right-hand side because that will come through to everyone, is just what's your preferred channel, I suppose, whether it's WhatsApp or Messenger or a closed Facebook group. I sort of like the closed Facebook group because then I can throw resources into that as well that I find that, if I find a good article somewhere along the line that I can throw that in very easily rather than having to pick it up and email it.
Yeah, link a YouTube video or a podcast.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to have
good
some,
idea.
and it just sort of keeps us motivated and connected that way. Terrific. All right, well, we'll continue doing that. And then you've got 2 calls to action for the next session as well, and that they are, I know Shannon took 20 minutes to tell her story today, but I would love it if you could come back to the next session with a 5 minutes of tell us a little bit about yourself and your personal brand that you will have thought about between now and then. And if you need a hand doing any of this, please just jump on the email or call me in between. But yeah, a 5-minute presentation from each of you at the start of the session. And also, if you can have thought about who you have asked for your feedback, like Shannon was saying that she went and asked people. I would love it if you could find 1 or 2 people that you could openly, who care about you and understand you and know you. I don't want to put you in a really vulnerable, too much of a vulnerable situation. But if you can ask people for feedback, and I'd love to know what they said. So there might be something that might have been completely from left field that they've said, or you know what, they've actually told me exactly what I know, and it's this. So it'll be sort of all up. It'll be about a 7-minute presentation from each of you, if that's okay, for the start of the next session.
Yeah.
And that is it. I've got heaps of resources. There's the resource here, the top one, that TED Talk on personal brand. Oh, it's an American woman, and that was fantastic. So if you've got 10 minutes in the car, just throw that on, maybe on your phone. I don't know if any of you saw the Q&A with Julia Gillard, but there's a really nice little part of the Q&A when she was out talking about talking to a young girl from a multicultural background. And so it's something as well that we will start to introduce some discussion around intersectionality. But if you want to just sort of have a listen to that, that'd be awesome. And then there's a couple of articles there on your soft skills, so communication being one of them, and how why they're so important and how you might be able to start working on them yourself. I'll just go back. And then the next session we're going to do, all going well with the person who's presenting, is going to be on governance. So it is going to be a little bit dry. So that's why I thought if you come prepared with your presentations, and then we'll do like an hour of power just take you off shared. We'll do an hour of power of just some governance areas that might not necessarily tell you exactly how to do everything. A lot of you already have expertise in this anyway, but at least just to tell you, we don't know what we don't know. So there'll be different guides and directions, and it'll be short and sharp. So yeah, does anyone have any suggestions or any feedback or anything like that? I think I'd factored in, and it's always good to finish early. I think I'd factored in some technological IT issues, and we didn't really have them.
Done.
So
flew through it today.
Yeah, flew through. Yeah,
Good
absolutely. Does anyone? Yeah, you don't have to at all. So I'll send another feedback sheet out to you. I think I'll do it on SurveyMonkey this time. I don't know that Forms is the best format to use, so I might just pop it onto a SurveyMonkey, and if you can just give me a little bit of feedback, that's terrific. If anyone hasn't filled out the form from the first session, it would be really helpful because it's great for me to know exactly what you want to get out of this, and then I can tweak the program, the content, depending on what your needs are as well. All right. Well, happy Friday.
Yay.
You too, Fee.
John's done that with 3 little children running around.
Good work, Mama.
Yeah, well, great to see your faces. Yeah, have a great weekend, and yeah, just yell out if there's anything I can help with, and see you on, I think it's the 28th of August.
Lovely.
Awesome.
Thanks, Fiona.
Thanks, Fee.
Thanks,
That was great.
Fee.
Thanks,
Guys.
Fee.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.